Hey, I'm Finn, and I am excited to share with you some techniques that I think might be helpful to play with this idea of the existential realm of the erotic. If you read my blog and you're thinking like, wow, there's a lot of existential stuff here. Just cut through it. How do I get to some of this practical stuff? Or maybe you really loved all that existential stuff and you want to also further the practice. Here are some ways that I think we can contact this erotic source in us, even though we can't necessarily practice sex in the ways that we've been doing all along as we're in quarantine. So whether you're single or you're partnered and or some variation of that, it doesn't matter. Sex is really being it's like under conflict right now. We can't access the ways that we normally access senses of ourselves and our eroticism and ways that we really prefer and like to access. So one way to really play with that is like the affirmative self-pleasure practice. And what I mean by that is affirmative is like I'm saying this matters to me. It's my right. I deserve this. I'm worthy of it. It's like an entitlement that's like really healthy, and we set aside time for it. That's different than like maybe I'm working and I get bored and I like just start to look at guys online, and it starts to turn into like a porn. And that's one thing. That's kind of reactive to a state of being though in me. That's like, I'm bored. Ooh, this looks fun. That's different than saying, I matter, sex matters, my eroticism matters, so I'm gonna set aside time to really do that with a full sense of inquiry about myself. Like, what is in me? Like, what am I experiencing? What's here? Maybe even all this grief and suffering and all this stuff out here that we're going through around coronavirus even. Maybe that even is part of what's in my eroticism right now and how I can utilize those feelings to access a deeper sense of healing. So, go to the mirror. The mirror is a place that we usually try to fix something about ourselves. It's like, what can I change about me to be better, to look better, to be approved of, right? So that's not what this is. This is going to the mirror to be like, who am I? Like, what am I carrying? Like, who am I? Really deeply looking into myself and into my eyes. Start out with an eye gaze. Take some big, deep breaths. Look at yourself in the eyes. Explore what comes up for you in that space. Any thoughts, any feelings, any resistance, any excitement, anything. It's all part of the experience. Take note of that later if you want. Jot down in a journal. Start to play with your body, like touch yourself, touch your cock, get really aroused in the best way that you can, and then start to sensitize the rest of your body. So we know that cocks, balls, asses, nipples, those are erogenous zones, right? But what about like every little part of your skin? What about like all the sensation and the contact that you can make there? And the idea is to like get aroused and then sensitize those areas so that your brain starts to network all this together and like go, oh, that sensation goes with that sensation, and that part of my body goes with that, and try to broaden the context of bodily pleasure beyond just the genital and the typical erogenous zones. And then as you start to get really aroused, and this could be challenging depending on how much you fantasize, but a lot of people, if they use a lot of porn, they often report, that they don't know how to fantasize, or they don't really have a whole lot of fantasies outside of what they just saw yesterday online. And so what about your unique erotic blueprints, the things that really turn you on, that come up from basically the history of your life and your childhood issues around sexuality and all this stuff, that how we started, acquiring who we are as sexual people, as children. That all comes from a behavioral way of being in a certain kind of environment, the first things that we saw, the things that we started paying attention to, and we start constructing this network of information, and that's really the depth of fantasy for us. So if you can get into this quiet space of self-inquiry, you can start looking at all of that information in a really deeply symbolic way that really has a lot to say about your emotional needs. So for me in this mirror practice, it's going to the mirror, allowing myself to fantasize freely and wildly, and whatever is coming up, just following that trail. And that's going to change all the time, no matter what, whatever's going on in your life. You might have some key fantasies that really turn you on because they're key to who you are. And whatever's happening for us in our lives is going to also influence and like create these sorts of like changes in us that are expressed through the imagination and the shape and the form of all this like symbolic information. So follow that stuff. That's beautiful information. And then try to look into like, well, what does that mean for me? If it's a certain body type, what does that symbolize? What do I associate with that person? Strength, might, power, okay, whatever. How do I find that in myself? And in the mirror, you're looking for that same kind of quality. You're looking for what you look for in other people, you look for it in yourself. Maybe it's by creating a body posture and you go, oh wow, I don't feel like I deserve to stand like that. Okay, so, and that's also useful information. All of it's just information. You just keep following these little trails and these threads, and you look into like, what am I carrying? Who do I think I am? How do I deny myself a sense of eroticism? How do I deny myself what I might like give to other people and maybe think that other people have that I don't? Or maybe you really love what you're seeing in the mirror. Maybe you're really excited about what it is. Whatever you are experiencing is a way that you can create a deeper understanding about who you are and a deeper route to your own erotic and spiritual healing. So what if you have a partnership and you want to do this, right? So this is bringing up a whole, it's easy if you're by yourself maybe to create the time and space to do this all day. But if you're in a partnership or if you have roommates, then it's like, do I ask for that space? Absolutely. Notice what comes up for you around that. What if you say, like, I actually want to spend a couple hours today pleasuring myself. Would you be willing to take a walk and allow me to have that? That's challenging for me. That's been challenging. That's something I've been working on in my life. A lot of the clients that I work with are like, oh my God, I would never tell that to my partner. I couldn't tell them. Like, why? We wait till they're gone and we wait till we can like sneak and do something, when we're alone, which is, fine. And that's sneaky and that's fun. And it's also kind of the easy way out. What about creating this like perception in ourselves about sexuality that says, this matters for me. This is part of like how I care for myself. This is how I contact this realm of the eroticism that I really need to feel plugged into right now. And from this place, I can actually start to create and cultivate some of these connections with other people. And you can take this into like virtual connection with other guys. I'm hearing that single guys right now are having conversations with other guys on Grindr that are way more soulful and like exciting for them than in the past. Because of the constrictions that we're in, I think people are just vulnerable and really willing to open up in ways that they hadn't before. So they're having these really beautiful virtual connections, eye gazing with guys on video conferences, like lots of different like jack off parties that are happening online, connecting globally over the circumstances that we're in that's allowing us to evolve and to reach out to other people. So if you have any questions, please, as always, email me, finn@finndeerhart.com. That's FINNDEERHART.com. And I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to hear about your experiences. And if you'd like to do any kind of session work with me, please reach out and email me. And I am thinking about the reach that this practice might have in your life and also just across the globe if we all take in a sense of inquiry about our sexuality and what does that mean and how am I showing up. So